last few days of that Keeneland meet coming up. We are going to talk about Friday and Saturday racing right here. Gino Bacola and my good friend Barry Spears, the sniper. Barry, my man, feels like this meet has flown on by, right? Just a few days left as we record here on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, it's gone too fast, but there's a lot of long shots that came in today, and
Yeah.
big carryover for Thursday, and then right into the weekend. So it's going to be guns blazing.
And Keeneland's one of the better tracks of just like every card always, you feel as a gambler, you can find some prices. That's what I love about the card. We're going to be right sometimes, we're going to be wrong sometimes.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's, for me, one of the easier tracks to just open up and be like, oh, there's a few 6, 8, 10 to 1 shots that are nice and on my radar and have some of the things I'm looking for. And DRF gives you all the tools every day that there's racing going on at Keeneland. They have that Keeneland handicapping tools store, so you can get that at shop.drf.com. There's also a new bonus, a sign-up bonus, and it'll give you free all-access past performances. We're going to be using those all-access past performances right now. You usually see us stick in the formulator because it's a little bit easier to kind of show some of the work, the charts, but they also have the ability to get you to the Timeform US. You want to use the promo code STAKES right at the front of DRF. You will see this promotion. You can click right on it. You want to sign up for a DRF Bets account because, Barry, one of the things we all gripe about as horse players, man, I've always felt this way before DRF Bets, is that when you're handicapping, you're betting the races, you don't feel like you want to spend a whole lot of money on past performances. And now when you have a DRF Bets account, every time you bet $50, they give you credit for one. And then right off the bat, they start you out with 10 free formulator or 10 free all access cards. So right off the bat, you got 10. Every time you bet 50, you're getting access for another one. So that'll help a lot of horse players out there when you're betting through DRF Bets.
You know, it's funny because I equate buying past performances to charging my phone.
Yeah.
It's something that you have to do in order
Yeah.
to do what you need to
Right?
do.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's like, oh man, it's like it's you want to try to make it as convenient as possible.
And as
And
affordable for you as possible.
right, exactly. And I
Like,
think DRF captures that, and they do a good job with all the info. So
and
it's perfect.
as we record on Wednesday evening, by the time all of you are looking at this, the Breeders' Cup pre-entries are going to be out and available. The pre-entries came out earlier, and the full PPs will be ready, so you can shop for all those DRF packages that you want. There's a couple different styles that you can take a look at, and we will give you more details on those in the coming days. And Barry and I will talk some Breeders' Cup next week. That'll be the focus when we get together. We'll hit a few races. I'm not exactly sure what we'll do, but we'll definitely sink our analysis into a few of those awesome Breeders' Cup races. So much happening right now with DRF. And as we head over to Keeneland, let's talk about some best bets for Friday for Saturday. I know our friends, I saw our friends at Stable Duel had Friday contest up at Keeneland. I didn't see Saturday ones up quite yet, but a couple different options for you over there if you want to play as well. So, Barry, let's get into Friday. I've got a couple for Friday. You've got a couple for Friday, and then we'll both have a few for Saturday as well. I'm going to start right off the bat. I'll get us started, hopefully, with a winner on Friday. Very early in race number 1. Because they were singing my Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. That's where we're going, the number 7.
All right.
Levee was dry, 12-1 on the morning line. Now, this guy debuted at Churchill on September the 14th. He was mid-pack. He was about 4 lengths off. He made a deep, like a 3-deep move on the outside when he shifted off the rail. But the race that day, you can tell when you look at the chart, was won by a wire-to-wire winner. So there was just not a whole lot of passing. In particular, look at the top 3 finishers. They were basically 1, 2, and 4 all the way around the track. So there just was not a whole lot of passing in that race at all. It was a really merry-go-round type race. It's already come back a live race because the 3rd place finisher went over to Belmont at Aqueduct and won a maiden special weight. And look how he jumped up in winning that race. Like his Beyer speed figure went all the way up to an 86 in winning that one. We also had another winner, Airborne Elite, came out of that race and crushed a field, winning a maiden 30 at Keeneland and earned an 82 Beyer speed figure in winning that race. So I look at the race. it didn't shape up very well for this horse because it was an all pace type of race. It was on the turf. Now this horse will switch over to the dirt. We can take a look at the pedigree. This is a horse who has a dam, who was a multiple winner on the dirt. So should be okay and kind of checks that box for me. And then we look at the direct siblings. Well, we have, a couple dirt winners, including a horse named Silver Prospector, who was a multiple graded stakes winner. This horse was very good early on in his 3-year-old season. He won the Southwest. He actually won the Kentucky Jockey Club too, as a late in his 2-year-old season. So he had that stretch where he was feeling like he was a major player kind of heading into the Derby. He was only 7-1 in the Arkansas Derby there. So I think there's just a lot of things, Barry, that kind of check a lot of boxes for me for a horse that's a big price. Like he's training, he's come back and he's trained well in the mornings since that race. I think the race is a little bit better than it might have looked on paper. It didn't shape up well for him. It's already come back productive. I know this barn is certainly capable, and I'm kind of looking at the way this race might shape up in particular. And I think there are 2 major speeds in here and maybe another with the first-time starter. The 2 are Shortstop and Homestead, who I think they're both probably 2 of the major players in this race. So I could see them really worrying about each other, making sure to keep each other honest. And that could set up nicely for someone else. I'm hoping it's Levy Was Dry.
Yeah, and you got even Remarkable Mo on the inside that's probably going to inject some speed into this race. And I think being on the outside, Levy Was Dry is going to get a nice trip.
Yep, should just work out that really nice outside trip. And hopefully it will be a little closer early than the 2 horses right inside of him, right? These horses look like they're like deeper closers that probably will be a little farther back. I think Levy Was Dry might be able to work out that perfect spot, like sitting 4th.
Right,
maybe
right in between.
Here, and just kind of fall into a nice trip. So 12-1 on the morning line for Levy Was Dry. And I've got a couple horses early on the card. I'm going to hand the baton off to Barry, who's going to take it over for the middle to later part of the card. I'm going to go to race number 3 on Friday also. And I'm going to take a look at this maiden special weight turf race, Barry. We're going to go to the outside and we're going to take a look at the number 10 Tonalite. Got it. I think I've mentioned this before too. One of my big moments when I was such a California Chrome hater. I was it's so funny.
Oh, man.
I will say it mainly because I sort of was following other horses along the way and some stuff happened to those horses. So I was more focused on them. So California Chrome was going to face Bayern in the San Felipe, and Bayern didn't run in that race. And so California Chrome ends up winning, looking awesome, winning his next race. And so he sort of jumps on the scene as this monster nationally overall. And Tonalist also had a little hiccup and he kind of had to come up the back way. Neither of those horses ran in the Kentucky Derby that year, Bayern or Tonalist. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of really high on both of them watching. And then when Tonalist was pointed to the Peter Pan and then the Belmont, I remember in my head, he's going to beat him.
That's the time. Yep.
He's going to beat him that day for the Triple Crown. And I'm going to be. And so it was funny. Everybody was so excited for California Chrome. He's going to do it. The rags to riches story. And I was like, nope. I was just total heel the whole time. It's going to be Tonalist. And I remember that day I was in my living room when it happened. And I was one of the loudest I've ever screamed. And I was doing the, from Half Baked, when he quits the job and he says, F
telling
you,
everybody,
F you, you're cool, F you, he's just
I'm out.
Everyone. I was like this in my room just alone. I am so much better than all of you. I was screaming, I am the greatest. I just and every time I see the Tonalist stuff, it makes me get a little goosebumpy because that was one of my moments.
Not to mention he was a Belmont specialist too.
Oh yeah. And he was and the price was right. And it was everything.
Perfect.
Chrome got in a little trouble that day. It just sort of all came together. And looking back, I'm like, man, the horse was better than I was giving him credit for. But, it was one of those things where when I was in the moment, I was like, oh, man, because I actually believe when they announced the morning line for the San Felipe, Bayern was favored over him because Bayern had just come off of winning an allowance race by 20 lengths. Before that, he just crushed the field.
Crushed that field.
And he was one of those horses that was when he would win and look good and he could just run you off your feet, So, and it was fun that they all end up lining up. They had those three and Shared Belief were a good group of horses, man. Like they were fun. Like they could really, really like on their A game and on their big days, they could really step up. So my whole tangent on Tonalist all came because of Tonal Light, who I like here in this spot. I thought her debut race was very good, and it was just a little low on the speed figures. But we see this happen all the time in 2-year-old races, right? Where the speed figures are a little low, or maybe they're not quite as consistent as some of the others. But, just compare Tonalite to Moonlight Gambler, for example, right next door. Like,
look the same.
Tonalite ran a better debut race than Moonlight Gambler
did.
And then Moonlight Gambler obviously showed a lot of improvement in career start number 2 and then was in a grade 2. But like, I'm just looking at these two horses right next to each other. And I like the upside of Tonalite so much more watching the race too. Got stuck in a bad spot inside, was buried behind horses, but kind of had to stay in that spot. There wasn't really anywhere to go and waited and was full of run with just absolutely nowhere to go, shifted off the rail late and closed very well for 4th. The top few had already separated that day and now stretches out, or now after having gone, we'll get a little time working really well here. I think is a kind of a tactical horse, has a little more speed. Like this isn't like a deep closer or anything, was kind of sitting a little bit closer, just had some traffic that day, Barry. So at a very fair price of 15-1, I think this horse could absolutely show some improvement off that race. And I think it's probably a little high. Like to me, this was probably a horse that feels more like should be in the like 8-ish to 1 range, right? Like
yeah, it's probably half that morning line,
which is still a fair price. But like in stable, if you're playing like a stable duel situation, you only have to pay for a 15-1 shot here. Or like these are the type of horses you throw into your early pick 4, pick 5s that are like nice ones when they hit, because they're those middle.
Right. They're never going to be favored in a spot like this.
No.
And they're always going to be kind of a middle of the road price. These are the horses you kind of want to look for because, you obviously don't want to bet favorites all day. Like Moonlight Gambler, I don't like at all here.
Yep.
I just can't see that horse winning. I didn't, I know these Ellis Park turf races have been pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it looks like Tonalite has more upside than a horse like Moonlight Gambler, just based on just that one race and then the progression out of it with the works. He looks pretty good here.
Tonalite 15-1 on the morning line. So I have a couple early. Barry is going to head right next door to race number 4. Talk to us about this one. It's a 1 1/16 on the dirt. You've got some higher level claimers here.
Yeah, higher level, not those inexpensive
those low
ones.
level. Yeah,
yeah. This is 62.5 going a 1 1/16. I ended up on number 2, Buck Moon. Now you kind of, I think this horse might have a pace advantage here, even though there are some horses that look on the page like they have some speed, like King's Ovation has won on the lead before, but I don't really think that horse wants to be by himself.
Nah, he kind of feels like a little more of a presser, right? Or
yes,
like
he doesn't want the lead. He got it in that race back in May, at this level too. But I don't think that's going to play out because
they were going really slow
very
that day.
slow.
Yeah,
very slow.
And with him being drawn to the outside, even that might work against you, against them, and positive for your point, right? He may be a little more tactical and just try to sit.
Right, and the same thing kind of goes for Uninvited Guest, who is the morning line favorite. Kind of shows speed, but doesn't appear to want to dominate on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
And Buck Moon looks like the only one, and he looks faster. And he could have the run of the race. I mean, even Trident Hit, who I don't like at all. I don't know how this horse is 5-2 on the morning line.
This reminds me of the Anchorman. Did you just hit someone with a trident brick? Yeah, I think he's
probably lay low.
I didn't say
lay low for a couple of days.
Yeah, they're gonna be looking for you, right?
But I don't think that one really, wants the lead either.
No,
and that just leaves Buck Moon 9-2.
Because he's legitimately quick. Like he's legitimately fast. He's only sat like in that last race. He got bumped around at the start, and that's why. But they were going quick. And that's why he didn't catch up. Like he's just naturally, I think, a lot faster than the other horses you were pointing out.
Yeah, that's really my only issue. I mean, my only point here is that I think he is faster.
Closer to the
Plus,
rail.
he's coming from Hawthorne, Prairie Meadows, Fauner, Thistle. His price is probably going to float up a little bit.
Yes, I agree. And it's funny because those tracks in particular, like you may look at and not think they were as strong. But the one thing we know about being at those tracks, what does well is speed.
Yep.
They do have like a lot of these tracks, the lower tracks, or the tracks that aren't as major circuit tracks. The way to win those races is to have speed, and you kind of have to in a lot of them, because if you're in smaller fields and you're not close up, they'll outrun you, and you'll get stuck behind, and it's harder to make up ground there. So this is a legitimately fast horse, and we've actually seen. I think Marcus Hirsch wrote an article about Chicago horses at Keeneland and the success that they've had so far. Early on, we've seen a few of them do really, really well. And this is a horse who had some races at Hawthorne and who now had a most recent race at Thistledown. But I think he was kind of pointing out in the article that the horses with the Hawthorne form have really good success. Lost to a horse named Notary, who got really sharp, who had won back-to-back races there. And that was who he lost to. Notary has won foot 4 to the last 5. And look at some of the speed figures that Notary earned too. So again, while he's coming out of races at Thistledown and at Hawthorne, he's facing legitimate company.
Yeah.
While he's doing it.
I like him.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a legit shot. I mean, it's probably a little unconventional because people are going to be like, oh, yeah, this is probably going to be a closer because they see all the ones on the page. But if you dig a little deeper and look at the internal fractions, Buck Moon has been, at least on paper, looks to be quite a bit faster than the rest of them.
But even if
we're at least early,
and even if we're using our friends at Timeform US, right, and their pace projector, they've got like King's Ovation with a 104. They've got Buck Moon with a 129.
There you go.
Right, so they think he should be well ahead of the rest of the field early. But you were pointing out a great thing is that a lot of people, when you're handicapping, you see the ones you don't kind of dive into, like. And maybe they'll see these tracks and go, okay, yeah, so he was showing speed against softer, big deal. I think it's kind of the opposite here with Buck Moon, hoping to take them gate to wire in race number 4. Barry, we move to race number 6. I think we both will have one in the 6th race. Let's see where we land. Talk to us about who you're looking at in the 6th race here.
I am looking at a whole bunch of horses. No, yeah, this is a pretty salty allowance race going a mile 3/16. A kind of marathon distance. Usually, you see like Mike Maker have a couple of horses in a race like this, and he really isn't in here, which is strange because usually he has the 12, but that horse isn't very good yet. But this pace in this race seems like it might be a little bit lively. You got, I don't even know how to say it.
Shalabia.
Yeah, Shalabia is definitely going to be out there winging it. Haystack probably wants to be forwardly placed. Mirabella definitely wants to be closer to the lead. There's a lot of different directions you could have gone here because even a horse like Callie's Grit, if that one's able to shake loose, could be tough, but I don't think that's going to happen here. There's enough speed to keep everybody occupied. And I ended up going with number 7, Red Hot and Blue, with Johnny V aboard.
The template for this horse fits very, very nicely. I had this horse pick 3rd in here. Like, I think she's a major player.
Well, one of the things that kind of stood out to me was the March 3rd race. I mean, this horse only run twice this year. Both second place finishes got put up in the last one. But that March 3rd race at Gulfstream ran against Sinfiltre, who came back the other day and ran pretty good at Keeneland.
Yep. And earned a 95 buyer speed figure in doing so after having dropped out of a graded stakes where she ran a really good 3rd.
There it is. And that's, this horse was keeping that kind of company. It was only 3-1 in that race. I know it was on the synthetic, but you can get a good gauge on, where this horse's ability is because that one was four lengths ahead of the 3rd place finisher. So, comparatively speaking, this horse probably needed that last race.
Absolutely.
Ran well, was a little bit farther back than they really wanted to be. Now they switched to a veteran rider in Johnny V. Toner does well with these kind of layoffs.
And this
Second
mare,
time
like,
out.
she's obviously like we've seen, she showed ability early on in her career and in spots, and then she definitely showed that improvement when she stepped foot on the grass. But she's kind of been her own worst enemy because it seems like every time they've gotten started with her, they've had to stop like
Right.
2 or 3 races. It's like 2, 3 races, then a gap, 2, 3 races, then a gap. And I love playing horses like this, making their second start back when they have a bunch of gaps like this.
Exactly, because that
Because
means they're healthy. They're doing well.
yeah, and this could be one of her best efforts she's ever given, with second time for this barn, second start off the bench with someone like a Johnny V aboard, and they maybe have just kind of figured her out a little bit after seeing what she did last time.
I
And like
mean,
you
the
said, there are,
caveat is the horse never finished first.
yeah, that's the only knock. But it was like a legitimate effort last time out. And what I like is that there are multiple good efforts and
Mhm.
noticeable improvement, like on the grass. This horse is a
Right.
grass horse for sure.
Exactly. And that's kind of what attracted me here. Getting that first win under those kind of circumstances at Pimlico wasn't ideal, but it should be something to springboard to. Should get the price. I mean, I think people are going to notice that horse didn't cross the wire first and kind of
Knock a
pump the
little bit.
brakes.
Yeah.
That makes me want to gravitate to this horse more. I think
Mhm.
Johnny V can get it done. Toner does an excellent job with these types, and this is a good spot.
This was a major pick 5 player for me too, because you were kind of talking, what I had a difficult time with in this race was mapping out the pace. I'm hoping that Sabalia will sit third, and I'm going to use her in that, in hoping that like I can handicap that, and that's where she wants to go, because I
Mhm.
think she's naturally pretty quick. I
Yeah.
love the trip she sat on August the 5th, and then she stepped on August the 27th. She stepped up. They just wanted to get her out front. She drew the rail that day. They tried. She faced Stakes Company. She was in a little bit better. Then last time they were going pretty quick in that race. They went 22-1 to the quarter. They went 45-2 to the half that day. They were flying early. She couldn't really get the lead, or couldn't really even get close to it, like sitting in a good spot. She was a step slow. She then got caught just behind in that second flight, and she just couldn't get any closer early. It was like deceiving because she kept getting pushed farther and farther back from the rail. And it was like just kind of at the mercy of the horses in front of her. And I'm hoping she can get that nice trip in here. I think she'll be in that top flight. As Barry mentioned, though, she's a price for a reason, because there are versions of this race where maybe she gets hooked up with
Gets
a couple
lost.
others in here, right? Like she could with Callie's Grit, who, or the 12 Can't Keep Me Down. But I do think of them, she has a little versatility to her, and she can sit off a little bit. So I will be using her right next door to Barry's 15-1 shot. I've got a 10-1 shot, so some big prices for you, however you're playing this 6th race. And let's see. I've got one more in the 7th. You're going to finish this up in the 8th, which is the grade 3 feature on Friday. 7th race. In this race, I'm looking for the horse who's going to sit a nice trip, like off the pace a little bit, and who I actually think is good enough to compete with She's Looking Lucky, and because she and Chop Chop, like who has the quality, who can sit the trip, and who actually has the quality, because She's Looking Lucky is going to go very fast, and right next door, Thunder Rock and Roll is going to go very fast. These two are going to hook up, and perhaps one or two others in here will be pushing the pace, but at least those two. So I'm trying to find who is good enough and who can sit the trip. And Alexa Liu, I kind of wanted to get here. I'm not sure. I could actually see her being more forwardly placed and kind of get caught up with them up front. Chop Chop fits. She's fine. That Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies race, I think, is 1 for 44. I saw Marcus Hirsch tweet about that. The first
it's been pretty bad, dude.
Yeah, I think the first horse to win from that race was Raging Sea, who just won on October the 20th. No horse had won a race out of this race so far this year. So it was not that strongest. And I mean, you could see the last couple races, she hadn't been great. So she fits, she could win, but I wanted a horse who, was a little bit better of a price, obviously. The one who I keep coming back to is this Indiana bred. And I think because she's an Indiana bred, she'll get a little bit a lot like off the radar here, right? People are going to say, she was in those Indiana bred races, but like we can dive into a little bit more of her form. So she lost to a horse named Blue Light Special a couple times that we've seen. Oh, this was her win. And Blue Light Special actually beat her back at Oaklawn as well. So like this is a legitimate horse, Blue Light Special, who's just a really speedy horse and who was able to get away from her a couple times. This is a nice animal who's been able to win against allowance foes over at Oaklawn. So what kind of trip can Corningstone get? We were just talking about Anchorman earlier, right? Isn't it
I
funny?
was just gonna say, yeah, it's like it's
Yeah,
following us.
I
It's a
know it
sign.
is.
It's a sign.
I was gonna say it's the movie of the week for us here on this handicapping show. So Corningstone, let's eliminate the last race. It was on the turf, and then let's look at the 4 races prior to that. That's a string of 4 really good races at Indy, and they're all coming from off the pace, getting the type of trip I was looking for. The races prior to that at Oaklawn, well, one of them was against Blue Light Special, who just went gate to wire there, and the other was against Punch Bowl, who ended up going after that race. Punch Bowl was the favorite in the Ashland following that. So that was a very nice horse at a very nice time of the year that she ended up hooking. And that was also Corningstone's first start coming off a little bit of a layoff. So, I'm looking at the first 2 races at Oaklawn to start 2023. I can be forgiving there. Then the next 4 races were all really good. And I think because they were at Indy, people are going to think, no, this was just a horse at Indy. Then tried the turf and we can eliminate that. And I feel like if the 6 and 7 hook up, this could be a horse that has shown us with these stretches of races right here, the 83 buyer, the 80 buyer, like there's some quality there and a horse who could get the trip. So
strong finisher.
Corningstone is the play for me at 12-1 on the morning line there. And that's in race number 7. Barry, you're going to finish us up in the Valley View, which is race number 8. It is a stakes race for 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the turf course. A lot of familiar names. We've seen a lot of these fillies through the year. These are some solid horses, and it's a really good, like wide open betting race.
Yeah, these are the types of races that I like to kind of focus in on when I see them on a card.
Yep.
Because there's so many different directions. These are all quality horses. You have a horse like Surge Capacity, who hasn't been out since August, who's run good all 3 starts, but comparatively speaking, is probably going to be overbet no matter what happens, just because of the connections. And I like to take shots against horses like this. There should be quite a bit of pace here. The outside horses, Yesternight has some speed. Sweet Lou Got Aces probably will have to go. I don't see any other way for this horse to try to win this race other than to be forwardly placed. Then you have Bling, who will probably have the same kind of trip. Not so sure Secret Money is going to kind of mix it up. The foreign horses are probably just not quick enough. And the inside horse, Heavenly Sunday, who I like quite a bit, but just not under these circumstances. That's the kind of horse that needs the right sort of setup.
Yeah, when there's not that much speed, she's really nice, right? Yeah, she's really solid.
But she's gonna have to go in order to get position. So we're gonna have some mixing it up early. And my pick, the number 10, Safine, is probably going to be in that first flight, behind the leaders. And I think that's the perfect place. I'm hoping for the quintessential Louis Size ride where he kind of lodges himself onto the speed and flanks them. Right. And just sits right there until the top of the stretch and then takes off.
What's nice is that you're getting the cut back too. So if this horse does have to sit a little wide, you'll be fit coming off of that trip, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think this just sets up well. The only thing that horse will have to do is outfinish Surge Capacity if things go right. So I think this horse is going to get the jump. Louis Size is tough, and honestly, the way the races have been run on the turf, you don't see horses launching from way back to win. And I think this horse has the right running style.
I like this one too. Safine, eliminate that last race, was just going a little too far. And at Kentucky, we can always eliminate horses who kind of just have a weird running line at Kentucky. Just eliminate that. And look at prior to this. This is a horse who was favored a couple starts back in a grade 3 race, beating Bling.
Well, even the comment on the Kentucky Downs race, stalked 2 to 3 wide on the
And that
far
just
turn. That's
you're
not
gonna
the
spit
that
it.
wasn't the move
No, you're
that
gonna
was
spit it
winning.
out when that happens. You're just gonna be wide. You're gonna give up ground, and you're gonna be done late. And that's exactly what happened here with Safin. So prices throughout the day for you on Friday. Tons of opportunities there for Friday as we turn the page from Friday to Saturday. So yeah, Barry, my man, we have Saturday and Sunday as our final 2 days of racing over at Keeneland. And then next week, the focus will be tons
Santa
of
Anita.
Breeders' Cup. Yeah, Santa Anita will take full focus. And yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I've mentioned a couple times. I think Saturday
Oh
will be
yeah,
the
you're
first
going out
day I'm
there,
out
right?
there. I'll be out there at
Nice.
5 a.m. Saturday morning for the morning, like last round of workouts, try to get some information, help some of the folks in the video team. And then we'll be posting a lot of stuff to social media for DRF. We're going to try to get a lot of videos, and I think Monday is the draw, so we'll get some draw reaction from folks there as well. Okay, let's get up on Saturday, my friend. So while we're pulling up Saturday, talk to us all about going in circles, big Mondays, and what do you guys have anything set up for next week for Breeders' Cup in particular? Anything a little bit different, or talk to us
Um,
about you and Chuck?
yeah, we're doing our regular Big Monday show on Monday. I think we're gonna do something later in the week, especially with the website that we have going
Game of Silk,
online.
right?
Yeah, well, we're doing that
Oh, your
too.
website, your own
Yes,
site. Oh, that's
our
what you were
own.
talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
cool,
we're
cool,
we're doing a little upgrading.
awesome.
So we're putting that together. We were working on it earlier today, so that should be out next week. And I think we're gonna do a couple of things. I'll be doing some stuff with you,
Yes,
um,
sir.
uh, also with Chase Sessoms,
Nice.
um,
Oh, the
the
Wolf of
Wolf,
Oaklawn.
right? And then we're still not sure if we're gonna do anything. I think we are, but I'll definitely keep everybody updated. Just keep your eye on the socials.
Follow along with the man at Urban Handicapper, the man there. So Barry, my friend, let's get to Saturday. I will start us out a little earlier in the card. Barry's got plays in races 5 and 6, so we'll head over
Trying
there.
to line our pockets early
I
on
know.
both days. I like that. I
Both
like that.
days. I was gonna say both, and normally it's a little later for me in the cards, but both days I got a nice feel early in the card. And on this one, we're gonna go to race number 2. We're gonna take a look at the 3 Regel here. You know, this guy was favored in his debut at Kentucky Downs, and it's almost the type of trip we were just looking at,
Mhm.
right? Where a horse was kind of sitting wide, kind of moved into it, and then just flattened out. And that Kentucky, when you get hooked wide like this, 4 or 5 wide, that was exactly what happened. This horse had a fast start, but got pushed back when kind of going for the lead. He had a really wide trip over that unique course, and he's better than the result of that race would suggest. They paid $320,000 for this horse, and he has like a solid little pedigree here. This is a horse whose dam was a multiple winner on the turf and was just like a nice allowance type horse on the grass. And even a horse like Wonelli, who doesn't have turf success, was just a really, really honest horse. We see Cowtown was a turf winner. Smoking Heat didn't win on the turf, but showed a little turf ability. So it's like a solid pedigree for a horse who got a ton of action in the debut, who has a race we can just kind of put a line right through. But what's nice is that race got a ton of fitness for him. And now I look at this particular field and I think, okay, it's him. It's maybe Lat Long, and from the outside, Coastal Brink. This horse has got a really nice inside position where he can kind of go and then see what these horses from the outside are forced to do. And you and I have hit on this a bunch with a horse that has this type of running style in a race where I'm thinking they could be on the lead or they could be sitting close. If I were to pick one jockey I want on that horse with that running style in that race, it would be Flavian Pratt. I think he just is the best at deciding on, do I go? Do I sit? What's it feeling like early? Do I make that early move? Watching him in Southern California for a few years, I was so impressed with his aggressive like clock in his head when he feels like, time to go now. It's the right time. And I feel like he's going to put this horse either on the lead, or if they're going too fast, he'll have a nice spot carved out just behind. He won't have to be nearly as wide. And hopefully Ragel can pad the pockets for us early on Saturday, my friend. I think you might be muted.
Okay, so like the one thing I don't know if people realize this is I watch a ton of races every day, every week. I watch, not always, have any financial interest in it.
Just you got the card on in the background. You're paying
Always.
attention to what's happening.
I
Yeah,
mean,
same
my
exact thing.
TVs are programmed like when the cable box comes on, it goes to FanDuel TV,
Yep.
like automatically. That's
I've got
that's
the
where it
3 track
starts.
feeds on in the background for myself of like 3 or 4, whatever the big race is going. Yep, same thing.
I watch a ton of races, and the thing with Pratt is he's very decisive.
That's a key
And
word
that's
for
what
me.
I love about him is because
Absolutely.
he even when he makes mistakes, he's
It was
still making decisions.
and that's what you want. Never you don't see where it's tentative. Like he rarely feels like he gets caught in between horses, right? He gets other horses caught. You
Right.
know,
He's the guy doing the catching.
he makes the move, and then the other horses get stuck. And in this particular, like this to me is like his strength as a
Yeah,
gambler. What I just love the
absolutely.
most about him is that okay, let's make the move right now. And you hit the word that's perfect, decisive. That's exactly what it is.
In this race also, I'm going to keep an eye on the AEs because my boy Buffoon is
Oh
in the
yeah,
AEs. I've been
yeah.
waiting to bet this horse, and I keep
I
getting
bet
the
him.
notifications, and he just doesn't ever get in. I've been wanting to bet this horse for a while.
Such a
It'd be
fantastic
wild
name for a
if it's
horse
in.
too.
I know,
You
right?
know, like they got to just call him, like just calling him his name around the barn. You buffoon! Hey buffoon, get over here! Just and like somebody walks by, like, did you call that poor horse a buffoon? Oh, that's his
That's his
name.
name.
And that's his name. So good stuff here on buffoon as we move. Next, we're gonna go to race number 5, my friend. You're gonna go a mile and 3/16 on the turf.
Yeah,
It's
another
another one of those
marathon.
marathon turf races, another one with the awesome like $110,000 purse here. Talk to us about how you see this one playing out.
Yeah, I think this race was split with the one from the day before.
Yeah, lots of like similar type horses. You had like 25 horses that look a lot alike on paper, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at this race, right? If you look at the entries and you look at the horses in the form, I'm pretty sure you know which horse I got. And it's 11, Truly Quality.
Oh yeah. Yep.
He's doing the thing that I love,
Yep.
where he comes off the bench and runs a race similar to what it was when he left.
Yep.
Second time out, that's when the jump up occurs. This horse is right in that wheelhouse. Should get a great trip. I mean, there's enough pace to where this is good. This horse can get to the position he wants.
And even this is another one where even if he has to sit a little wide, too
He can
deep
do
in
it.
the outside, he's cutting back from races where he's gone a little farther, right? Where
Right.
he's gone a mile and 5/16 and a mile and a quarter. So if
And
he's
Jose Ortiz is as good as it comes in situations like this.
and look at the 2 times where he's been or that was Irad where it was aboard, but you're absolutely right. He is fantastic. And this on the turf overall, I prefer him over Irad, no doubt.
Absolutely. He's
Like
way
no
better
doubt.
turf rider.
No doubt. Like hands
Way
down.
better. And honestly, he doesn't really win on the dirt.
No,
He'll win
like,
on
this is
synthetic. He'll win
yeah.
on synthetic down at Gulfstream and win on the turf. But
This
he's
is like a
kind of
beautiful.
struggles a little bit.
This is a beautifully bred horse too.
Yeah.
Just like from a
He
grass
just fits.
perspective, this horse is
Fits.
just really, really. This horse Moffy is a stakes winner and just ran in the Ontario Marathon up at Woodbine, like a very nice horse as well. And look at the 3 horses that this dam has dropped. They're all quality.
All good.
All 3 of them. Like you have one bad race between the 3 horses, and that was like when
Literally.
Moffy was coming off of a 13-month layoff. And that's the only bad race anyone in this family has run. So truly quality. I guess that does tell you about their pedigree.
Good name.
Right? Yeah. That I always would think this too a few
Truly
years back.
Together was a pretty decent horse, no?
Oh yeah. And I would always, think that I have a little list of like names that I've always kind of jotted down for horses, or like ones that I like. And I always would think, especially with barns that have a bunch or owners that have a bunch, you probably have a couple names that you really like, or maybe you're waiting for a really key horse. And sometimes you see
Yes.
those names, right? And you're like, man, this horse is named like they're a good horse. I feel like they probably would have saved that for a good horse, right? Like you're going to
That's
name
true.
that,
I never thought about that, but
and
you're right.
it's a simple, really like narrative-y way of handicapping. But like if especially if you see a horse with like 1 or 2 races at like a small track and they're like monster races, and the horse's name is like, I'm a monster, something like that. It's or like fast as the wind, something like that. I'm always curious, like, yeah, they may have saved this name for like a really, really good horse, because
See, if I was gonna do that,
you
I
do
would
it
name the horse.
backwards.
No, I would add on something like it would be Gump Jr. Like,
Oh, there we
because he's
go.
fast.
But
I would say something like that, like
that's great.
Gump
Yeah.
Jr. or something,
Yeah.
he's fast.
I
He's
like
got
that. I
wheels.
like that. So here's a look at race 5 on Saturday over at Keeneland, and I believe we will both go right next door to race number 6. So the 6th race is a stakes race on the dirt. It's a 6-furlong sprint for 2-year-olds here. Barry, talk to us about how you're seeing this one play out.
Yeah, this is another nice race. Some younger horses getting their crack at a stake, going 6 furlongs, and the inside 2 horses, Normandy Hero and Valentine Candy, look like they got all the speed. They
Yep.
ran 1-2 the last time on October 7th at Keeneland, but I think there's a horse that can spoil this party. In Patriot Spirit, that's who I'm calling.
Oh, here we go. We're together. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean the cutback, the going to the Iroquois, the horse ran pretty good. Just I don't think that horse's bag is to go a mile. This horse
Nope.
wants to sprint. They put the horse back where he fits, and I think it's go time. There's a lot of speed in here, and this horse can just sit a great trip with
I was
Flavin
trying.
Pratt, who we were just talking about.
Exactly. And for me, it was between the 5 and the 7. And it just came down to the fact that the 5's been on the dirt, is proven, and is cutting back a little bit. Because I
Right.
think those horses are the horses I'm looking at for getting a really nice trip in here. And so I was just with you. I'm on Patriot Spirit. Exactly. Like, we just want him to get the kind of trip he got in his debut, where he was sitting about 2 lengths off. In this race, it might be 4th, instead of 2nd, just off like that. He might be a little farther back because they will be going pretty quick early. I'm fine with that. He lost to a couple nice horses in the Iroquois, in West Saratoga, and in Risk It. In his debut at Colonial, he beat a horse who came right back to win their next start in Classic Joke. So beat a productive field, has lost to a couple nice ones, and I just think he's going to get the trip in here.
Yeah, and
Right?
I think later on, once this horse kind of figures it out, they could stretch him out a little bit later on.
Completely agree. He's another one who's beautifully bred. His damn Mystical Plan was a very nice horse. She was a grade 1 winner. She won the Princess Rooney here. So just a real quality here. Sits off a bit. Mystical Plan. And you know why this is perfect, Barry? Because we got to give a shout out to our buddy Maddie. We would always, if any time the 3 of us all came together, it was referred to as the law professor lock of the week. And look who's running a little later on the card on Saturday. It's our guy, law professor, right next door. And you know what? He actually fits really well in the spot too, because he's making his 2nd start back now, Barry. And I think he could get a fantastic trip sitting like 3rd or 4th behind a couple of the speeds. So let's look at the speeds in this race from way outside. Best actors in here. He's got to go because he's drawn way out there. He can't really sit off. Wouldn't be shocked to see Dash Attack showing a little bit of pace. Trademark is going to be kind of close and sitting pretty close. And then Speed Bias wants to go. Twilight Blue is really quick too. Giant Game, he wants to go. All of these horses could be forwardly placed, and Film Star wants to go. So Law Professor, what's so nice about him in a race like this is that he has enough tactical speed to stay close to these horses, but he's not going to be up there battling with them.
Gotta love our guy, man.
Right? And so it was so funny that we both landed on a horse right before he shows up here. And shout out to him. Like, he comes into this race feeling like he could fit really well. He comes off a good effort. One of his better. He finished 3rd that day. He was just sort of chasing him all the way around. And Film Star was in front of him that day. But I think it sets up really nicely for Law Professor.
Right, let's go. Let's send it in.
Shout out to Maddie. We're sending it in. The Law Professor lock of the week. I'm going to close us out, Barry. I'm going to bail us out in race number 10. So I got to start it early with the 2nd, and then I will bail us out in race number 10 and finish us up on Saturday. This one is a 2-year-old Maiden special weight race, $100,000 purse here. They're going to go a mile and a 16th on the turf, these 2-year-olds. I'm going to get to the number 4 in here, Time Song. So this is a horse whose debut was okay, but then in that last start, this horse got squeezed back early and kind of moved back right up into it. I thought the race was super deceiving. Unfortunately, since it's at Churchill, we can't pull it up and watch the replay here. But both of the first 2 starts were better than they may have looked, because the horse kind of got away early in the debut, a little slow, and then it was kind of wide, but did pick up some pieces, then showed more speed and was trying to get forward early and then just got squeezed back. And Saez is aboard now. So we've got a horse who's got 2 dirt sprints and now is going to stretch out to a route with Saez aboard. And I'm looking at the rest of this field, and, you've got Deadpan, who was on the lead, but they weren't really going that fast that day. I think if Saez wants to get aggressive down there with this horse stretching out on the dirt, I think this horse is going to be either on the lead or very, very close. Again, we look at breeding. There's nothing direct here with this horse because the dam net was unraced and has only dropped one other sibling, and she never even tried the turf. But you just look overall, this is fantastic turf breeding here with Smart Strike on the dam side, Giants Causeway on the top side there. So I think this horse is bred very well for the grass. I like the stretch out here, Barry, and I think they're going to get aggressive with this horse, Time Song. I think she will be more forwardly placed in here than it might just look on paper.
Yeah, the rider switch is the key there.
That kind of signals it to you, right? Yeah. Like you'll see that in the West Coast with like a Maldonado sometimes,
right,
where they're like, oh, you know what they're going to try to do? Let's get a good speed rider to at least get him out of the gate and get him in a nice spot.
And I'm sure those are going to be the instructions. Just get her out of the gate, put her in position up front.
And we think she'll run better. They paid $375,000 for this horse. Oof. So, yeah, I think she's a nice one. 10-1 on the morning line. We've given you a ton of prices for Friday and for Saturday. And remember, it's just the last few days of the Keeneland fall meet. So anything you need, handicap and tools, all of that, get to drf.com. You can get these same past performances we were looking at for free when you sign up for DRF Bets and you play through there. And we'll all start diving into those Breeders' Cup pre-entries over the next few days. Everyone will start posting, talking about this, that, replays. Did you see this? Did you see that? Love the time on social media now where we all can talk about these races coming up. My man, thank you so much. It's been a blast, like always, chatting with you each and every week. And I hope we were able to lead some of the folks out there in a positive direction. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Yeah, they better play our picks and build that bankroll because we got a couple.
We got a couple nice
here.
Yeah. We got a few nice ones. I like it. And if that's what's great about, if you follow our show, every week you really only need 1 or 2 of them. With the prices that we play, like if you can catch 1 or 2, and then some weeks where it's like 3, 4, 5, those are the real bankroll builders. And these are all nice horses to, at the very least, throw into your pick 4s or pick 5s. If you're playing in like a stable duel, these are nice contest type horses that we would want to use as well in there. So good luck to everyone this weekend, final few days of Keeneland, and then our focus will really shift to the Breeders' Cup next weekend. Thanks so much to Barry. Thanks so much to all of you. And we'll be back again talking lots of racing next week. Joey Cleveland, my good friend. We were going with the call to post today. You hear Joey. He does my theme song. He does the Stable Duel theme song. He does a lot of my little intros and a lot of my segment intros. He was my good buddy from high school. So Joey Cleveland, take it away with the call to post.